Hostia, yo ya estoy traumatizado. ¿Qué? ¿En serio? Hasta uno lo quiso matar. Hola, 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 hola. No. Con Wolverine no. No lo habría dicho jamás, ¿eh? Que héroes de Marvel Rivals no han sido detonados todavía. Me acuerdo que vimos el de Overwatch y era duro de ver, ¿eh? Y este de Marvel Rivals, teniendo en cuenta todo el lore que tiene, no tengo ni idea de lo que me voy a encontrar. Veo que me han puesto a Mantis aquí. Yo ya estoy traumatizado. Bueno, gente, videazo, ¿eh? Videazo, vamos a verlo. Esto es cine, ¿eh? Preparen palomitas. Se viene.
Okay, so last time I did this, I was just talking about 9 sweaty men and a few of their sweaty friends. And this time we're talking about character numbers greater than 35. And so I think we're gonna need just more than 2 tiers to represent them this time. The lights off, this can make the in-game bits quite hard to tell from the out-game bits. So with that established, here are the playing fields for this evening, gentlemen. Big Win is the top tier of tonight and will be exclusively populated by those who have attempted to repopulate. Yes, is what I'm...
Dice, Big Win está reservado para aquellos que han intentado repoblar. Hostia, tú.
And will be consistent of those who I can confirm have pushed past mid, but just not in the Marvel Rivals universe. It's a draw is for those characters who I'm just not really confident enough to make a decision on, and then can't expect to win them all is the tier for tonight's biggest losers. The kinds of characters who have never even left the spawn room, let alone those who have come within smelling distance of a choke point. Oh yeah, then there's also a no dice tier. Characters who couldn't, wouldn't, or shouldn't. All are welcome in the no dice tier.
Vale, actually, vale. Nos hemos enterado, ¿no, gente?
You, and you. Call me crazy, but I am actually a man who has much better things to do this time than research whether a raccoon or a baby shark have visited Sesame Street before. Things I like to do with said time include, but are not limited to, throw stones.
Yo tenía curiosidad, por Rocket.
And give my 2 cents. And for similar reasons, Ultron's hanging out here because
Ultron no tiene hijos, gente.
I mean, he did send me a picture of his exhaust pipe covered in oil the other day, but I wasn't really. I was kind of into it actually. Oh yeah, and also I'm just gonna put Penny in this tier as well. So Penny was confirmed to be 18 in the Marvel Rivals universe, thank goodness. As you're probably aware though, in a lot of her incarnations, she isn't, and so I'm just not even gonna go there.
Bueno, básicamente no quiere meter a Penny porque en muchos contextos es menor, pero en el contexto de Marvel Rivals es de 18 años. ¿Entendéis, gente, por qué le han puesto en Marvel Rivals 18 años, no? Por si acaso. ¿Me entiendes? Overwatch hace lo mismo, ¿eh?
Jason, reteach me how to milk a cow blindfolded. Final notes before we begin. To truly answer the question of who has had their John juggled or their Jill jiggled, we are going to be drawing from all aspects of the Marvel comics. This means that sacred and non-sacred timelines are on the table, but something like the MCU is about as relevant as a salad at a Spider-Man main meetup. We'll start with Magneto, because I actually think he's a pretty good...
Obviamente sí, ¿no?
The top tier on this list.
Vale, no tengo ni idea, yo no tengo ni idea del lore, ¿vale? Lo voy a intentar adivinar. Pero Magneto seguro que tiene algún hijo y ha tenido, y es muy mujeriego, tío. En plan, bueno, no sé si le van los hombres también, es que no lo sé, gente, lo siento un montón, ¿vale? O sea, no tengo el lore. Pero hay una cosa ahí con Charles Xavier que no es solo amistad. Este tío para arriba en el tier ese.
Speaking of, actually, routinely throughout comic book history, Big Mag had been the relatively indifferent father of Scarlet Witch, but in more recent iterations of the characters, this has mostly been retconned. This isn't entirely the case in Marvel Rivals though, as reading Magneto's character description reveals that whilst this Wanda isn't his daughter, and this Magneto isn't Wanda's father, our Magneto did have a different Wanda daughter, and our Wanda did have a different Magneto father. Yeah, welcome to the multiverse, by the way. Don't sweat it. I've done all the mining off.
O sea, en Marvel Rivals, ese Magneto no es el padre de esa Wanda y esa Wanda no tiene como padre a ese Magneto. Joder.
Camera for you. Further cementing him in my mind as the Giga Chad Nito, I knew he
Era obvio. Era obvio.
Hi, how you doing?
Y está en el segundo tier. Pues está, bueno.
put Wanda in the can't expect to win them all tier, as even though she's been depicted as pregnant and with children, her partner Vision, unlike Ultron, doesn't even have a leaky exhaust pipe, and so she had to conceive her children via a very dark magic.
No conception, no misconception. O sea, ha tenido a sus hijos a través de la magia, o sea, el Espíritu Santo. ¿Me estás diciendo que el Espíritu Santo es canon en Marvel Rivals? O sea, en el mundo de Marvel.
She's going in the bottom tier.
Bueno.
Things, however, could potentially change, as yesterday we got the Season 5 teaser trailers which soft confirmed that the devs are going to be exploring various ships within the community.
Dios, es verdad. Tío, esto del trailer de la Season 5, perdón.
Venom has been hitting on Scarlet Witch in every single character interaction they have ever since day one of this game. Up until now, she hasn't been biting, but something tells me that somewhere along the 19 inches, she'll change her mind. So, for now, she's going in the can't expect to win them all tier, but this is one of those characters I expect to change later down the road. Be sure to bully me into making a follow-up video if that does happen. Anyway, baseless transition, let's talk about my goat. I love the moon. I always have. Some of my favorite pictures of all time
Moon Knight,
have the moon.
mira que lo acabamos de jugar.
My friends used to call me Moon Boy. That was for different reasons, actually.
Esto se han hinchado.
So for the characters that either have multiple personalities or a form change, we're going to go with the one body, one rule kind of deal. This does mean that if Magic is an incredibly studious member of society and Darkchild is a then that would put Magic in the big win tier. Same logic applying to Moon Knight. Jake Lockley specifically has a daughter called Beatrice Alloraine.
Okay.
AI Rane. This is in the Earth 616 timeline, so we're just going to count this as Moon Knight's child moving forward. Is she or her mother referenced in game at all? No hay
referencia a la madre.
And so, with no further evidence to spare, Your Honor,
yes, but not in Rivals. Me parece bien. Me parece bien.
Jean, of course, being short for Jean Grey, and
Está 100%.
short for genetic reasons. So, reading through their bios reveals a couple of interesting things. Like, apparently, according to Wolverine's description, this Black Widow is over 100 years old, but it's Jean's description specifically making reference to her relationship with Cyclops, combined with the fact that we now have a wedding Cyclops plushie for her in game, ultimately makes me think that if these two characters aren't married already, this is the route that the devs are going to go down. So what does that mean for Mr. FNAF Nights at Freddy's over here? He lets it cross over, he's 2 shelves away from 2099, and he walks like an old man pushing 60 and a fridge. But despite all of that, he has a conversation with Angela making reference to multiple children, even naming one of them. This is a pretty strange timeline we live in, huh?
What? ¿Qué? ¿En serio? ¿Wolverine tiene múltiples hijos? Es que no lo sabía yo, gente, yo no me entero de nada.
This is a pretty strange timeline.
O sea, pa'lante y pa'lante. Con el cíclope sí. No sabía eso. Sí, un montón. Bro, sí, un montón. Vale, perfecto. Gente, no tengo ni idea del lore, me sorprende mucho. Hasta uno lo quiso matar. Oh, lol.
The Punisher's going in the big win tier, and we don't really need to discuss it very much. Anyone else who's a fan of the Punisher's character will know that after his family was unjustly killed by criminal gangs, he goes on to and grasp this concept here.
A ver, The Punisher
said criminal gangs. And like birds or something as well, I don't know. And of course, his family are mentioned in game. And also, fun Punisher fact, on the house, of course, due to his logo being associated with police criminal gangs, he is one of the few Marvel characters that will never come to Fortnite. If you're a Marvel Rivals fan, you probably clicked on this video for one reason. You're here to find out what is up with these two. And Danger over here have long confused people without the ability to perform a simple 5-minute Google search as towards their relationship status. And so I'm happy to ease the burdens of said people by telling you that this Cloak and Dagger are most likely married. Now, I'm going to get a lot of hate from the lesbian Marvel Rivals community specifically for saying that, because apparently these two aren't married, they are, and I'm quoting here, sibling coded.
Anda.
Yeah, I guess by Alabaman logic they could be. This is, you know, completely ignoring the fact that they kissies and cuddles in emotes, and they kissies and cuddles in the plush charms. And, oh yeah, they're married in their most recent comic run. Just for a heads up moving forward, any characters I can confirm are married in the Marvel Rivals universe will just be going in the Giga Chad tier regardless. But if you're unsatisfied with that answer, the 2018 run of Cloak and Dagger specifically has the pear become an apple, an orange become a kiwi, and a grapefruit become a slightly more used grapefruit. So all is okay that ends.
Vale, me parece bien. Ostras, no sabía yo la historia de Cloak and Dagger, no tenía ni idea.
Let's just get rid of Posh and Bex. Big and Baddie over here had a child in pretty much every
obvio, ¿vale? Obvio.
Richard, and he's also incredibly overpowered, and I really do not want him added to the game. I'd rather have to deal with the hunter from
Hostia, dice que no quiere al hijo metido en la partida en el juego porque vaya, está overpowered.
Repo behind me every time I try to record audio for a video. Now, I don't think Franklin is actually referenced in Rivals.
Tiene una serie Cloak and Dagger malísima, por cierto. Ni idea,
would be like going back in time and forgetting to kill Jared Leto. And until then, a married couple is a married couple.
Sí, bueno, está diciendo que las parejas casadas o relaciones que son tal van en el primer tier.
Known as the Squirrel Girl incident. Ever since her debut.
Squirrel Girl incident.
So, love interests. There's a few of them. She had a crush on Speedball.
Wow, ¿qué?
For a little bit, but that didn't really go anywhere. The much more interesting of the two is actually our very own Wolverine.
Me estoy fumando un porro. No, con Wolverine no.
Who is actually our very own Wolverine. In one of the Wolverine comics, it's strongly implied that these two characters have a relationship history. Until it was retconned. She did, however, still appear in Wolverine's great
Bueno, está mal traducido, pero dice hasta que le hicieron un retcon. Básicamente que borraron un retcon. Bueno, me lo explicó esto Jinxie una vez, a lo mejor me equivoco, pero es básicamente que se dice oficialmente que algo que ha salido no es canon, ¿no? O que le resetean el pasado o algo así, ¿no? What the fuck. Entonces, se aparecen las fantasías de Wolverine y eso no le han hecho retcon a eso.
Greatest lustral fantasies, and this part wasn't retconned. Let's see what else is there. She had a roommate for a bit, or maybe still does. Nancy liked her, but I could find absolutely no evidence proving that Squirrel Girl liked her back. And so, with all of this said, I think we're just dropping her into the...
Sí, está bien ubicada. No puedes saberlo.
I am most confident I have gotten wrong. There's got to be something I've missed, but I'm past the point of caring. I crossed that long ago. Congratulations, you're a failure. Subscribe, by the way, because if I'm able to double.
Buen canal, suscríbanse, luego lo dejo por ahí.
Let's get the big one out of the way first. So Captain America almost has 100 years of comic.
Vale, obviamente sí, ¿no? En 100 años habrá hecho algo, digo yo.
And because I do know these characters share a history together in certain timelines.
¿Ah, sí?
And likewise, there was also nothing. Onto the comics I went. The first thing that stood out to me is that in the Earth 616 timeline, Ian Rogers is the adopted son of Cap and Shaggy. Shaggy? Sharon
Te la reviviste,
With that not
Squee.
giving me the answer I needed, I continued digging until I came across a man called James Rogers from Earth 10943, and he is actually the son of Captain America and Black Widow in a world where everything goes a bit funky. And without him being referenced in game, this is square enough information for me to put Captain America in the yes but not in rivals tier.
Ok, me parece bien. Y claro, incluís a Black Widow ahí. Hostia, no sabía yo eso. O sea que Captain America y Black Widow tienen un hijo en un multiverso random. Hostia, madre que me parió. Tío, qué cosas, no puedo yo con esto, En una peli... Hay una peli de eso. Muy buena. ¿Ah, sí? ¿Cómo se llama la peli, gente? Joder, es que sabéis un montón, tío. ¿Cómo se llama la peli? Que la busco y a lo mejor la veo. Me la apunto. Jóvenes Vengadores, Next Avengers. The Next Avengers.
I was fully prepared for there to be tons of references to Tony's shenanigans within his in-game text, and I was sufficiently whelmed, actually. Despite the fact that he has the most amount of character descriptions in-game, all of these texts are less exciting than modern-day Fortnite. Even though his mind is as sharp as a blade, his tongue is as sharp as a slightly longer blade, and he cleaves through broads like an even longer blade than the previous two mentioned. There is no reference to Tony getting up to anything in-game, but he is, at minimum, in the yes but not in rivals tier. The rest of this section is just dedicated to debating whether he should be slightly higher than that. In terms of finding definitive proof in-game, there is only
pero no en rivals.
interaction I think we can debate on.
Wealth, good looks, business acumen. We'd make quite the power couple.
Maybe. But what do you have that I don't, Emma?
Take another look. Do you really need to ask that, Tony?
Hostia.
Right. So, when's our first date again?
References to a date, combined with the fact that he only turned up to the Hellfire Gala to begin with because Emma was there, and well, Emma being Emma, makes me think I can squarely place him in the big win tier.
Muy bien, muy bien. Bien formulado y bien justificado. Me gusta. Me gusta creer en que han tenido algo Tony con Emma. Vale, me gusta.
I realized that the Human Torch is kind of identical to Tony and Emma as well. Again, playboy philanthropist. Is that it? I think so. But unlike Emma, he messes around, and he often finds out as well. I mean, there's even voice lines of him flirting with other characters in-game. He's the Marvel Rivals equivalent of an exploding milk jug. No outright mentioning of any supernovas within his descriptions or bios, but we know very well it's a big part of his
100% ahí arriba.
Okay,
sí,
then,
sí.
Adam Warlock.
Uy.
Don't care. Okay then.
Don't care? Psylocke se viene,
Interesting, as for the first time in this video, I've been able to nail down exactly which version of the character this one is. This Psylocke is called Psy from the Peach Momoko Demon Days comics, compared to the usual interpretation of the character, who is Elizabeth Braddock. Or Captain Britain, apparently. Yeah, turns out this one's British. It seems the reason why they went with Peach Momoko Psylocke specifically was because they wanted a more Asian representation of the character. And I can confirm that this specific Psylocke is not a page flicker. Join your fellow no-skill DPS in the tier where you belong.
Okay, vale, la he colocado ahí.
Venom has been confirmed to be about 19 inches on the slab. When he swings round, the sheer gallonage on that thing could impregnate all of us. And not just the men. but the women, and then the joke ends there. So from what I understand, symbiotes reproduce asexually, and therefore we're not actually going to be looking at his royal schmeatness here. Thanks to season 3, however, we
Los simbiontes se reproducen asexualmente, bien.
Exist underneath all of that gooiness. And he's got quite the history of children and marriage in the comics.
Ah, tiene hijos.
Yes, but not in Rivals tier he
Interesante.
goes. Studies, 2 tablespoons of Hell's Kitchen, 75 grams of no parents, a sprinkling of badassery, and whisking 2 fresh billy clubs. Now, that's where the recipe would normally end, as it would be sent to the oven to bake, but Nettie's decided to come along and add 200 pounds of china. Okay, so this is a difficult one, as Daredevil, aside from Jeff, is probably the closest thing this game has to an original character. After reading his descriptions, I learnt that he still was a lawyer in this universe until he conquered some sort of demon beast, which entitled him to become the leader of one of the 8 realms. So up until that point, he was at least living a normal life. With this confirmation, we can disregard the fact that he's mostly an original character and just turn to Matt Murdock's earlier life in the comics. And as a Daredevil fan, I already knew going into this, Matt has a very, very complex love life. The very short answer is that he's had multiple love interests, affairs, and I think divorces too. I'll be sure to link it down below.
Pues 100%, ¿no? Ah, vale, pero no en Rivals.
Making the video. Hope you're doing well. Did you know I like Mantis? Did you know that Mantis started off life in the comics as a Vietnamese prostitute? Both of those things are true, by the way.
¿Qué? En los cómics empezó siendo una dama de burdel vietnamita.
She was essentially someone's OC creation who made it into Marvel, and when said creator left to go make comics for DC, he literally just remade her there with a different skin color and name. Actual wild. These two characters are essentially different characters, but with the name and various other attributes still sticking, we've got to put her in the yes but not in Rivals tier.
Vale.
Weird Friday.
O sea, considera que su pasado sigue siendo el mismo personaje, así que 100%, pero no en Marvel Rivals.
Going from single minglers to family guys, Hawkeye has usually been depicted with some amount of wives or children.
Hombre, 100%, ¿no? Este tiene hijos y esposas ahí de todo. Ah, pero en game no hay referencias.
No, there's a few references to guys, actually. This, combined with the whole shipping route that the Rivals devs seem to be going down in the near future, ultimately makes me think that the relationship between him and Nat is probably going to be explored later. I wouldn't key there's a man who positively can do all the things that make us... Actually, no more makes me cry. My eyes are actually sealing shut reading all of this. I don't care. Go in that tier. Here's a list of things I'd rather do than read the comic history of Namor. Not repeat a joke for the 3rd time. You. Magic is just kind of a freak, and I really don't want to use that word, but there's no other way for me to describe it. She'll go for anything when the lights are on. She makes out with aliens, she makes out with bugs. And while she doesn't make out with bug aliens, she has made out with alien bugs. Look at this panel. This is a...
Gente, por favor, no entiendo el lore de Magic. ¿Por qué se ha enrollado con tantas especies y con tanta gente? What the fuck? Do you want makeout? Do you want makeout with me? With me? With me? O sea, le ofrece a todo el mundo. What the fuck?
So, Magic is apparently pansexual. I don't want to do that.
Claro, pansexual en el caso de Magic tiene todo el sentido del mundo. Le gustan absolutamente todas las personas.
That's disgusting. She has a long history of getting down to do things, and so
Pero en Rivals no se dice eso.
I think we corner. We can put him in the big win tier just because we know the next season that drops in the day is going to be all about him and Rogue's marriage.
Obviamente.
You know what? Whilst we're on the topic of that trailer, actually, why don't we have a chat about this frame? These two characters have got to be...
Vale, esto, cuando vi el tráiler, la gente me dijo... Estos dos canónicamente han tenido cosas.
T'Challa and Storm actually have a very long history together in the comics. Loves, marriages, divorces, rekindlings of feelings, and like pet cats or something, I don't know. Our Black Panther in-game talks to Storm and mentions loving a different version of her from a different timeline, although it seems his feelings are still kicking around. I guess he really does love her in every timeline, huh? Wholesome 100 Reddit Chungus moment. Bringing us back to this panel, with me not only thinking that the love of these two is going to be explored into a marriage in the future, but already might be as of the time of
Bien, ahí arriba. Bueno, está diciendo que después del 15 de noviembre que no sabe que el vídeo va a envejecer porque van a salir más personajes y se van a explotar más cosas. Lógico.
I owe all of you an apology, as earlier on in the video I did a fake out tease for covering a very popular Marvel Rivals gal suffering from severe homophobia, and so the time has finally come to talk about Angela. I'm sorry, but every time I see this character, I can only think of that one multi-social media platform meltdown certain members of the lesbian Marvel Rivals community had because someone drew a picture of Angela holding Daredevil up against the wall. Angela is a lesbian as she has a wife in the comics.
Anda!
isn't even 100% true, as in her most recent comic run, Angela and Sarah have separated, and they've been this way since at least 2018. Talk about making your litter tray and pissing in it. Anyway, you know the deal. Separated wife, not mentioned in game, all good is good. So, remember that tier we made at the beginning of the video called It's a Draw that currently has no bitches in it? Yeah, this is where we're putting the remainder of the Asgardians. Remaining, not including Angela, because she's actually an original character to Marvel and isn't based off any one particular Norse god. You're really going to have to smell what I'm stepping in for this one. Just follow my lead. So,
solo porque son asgardianos, los ha puesto ahí en medio porque, bueno, porque van ligados a unas deidades y demás, ¿no?
In the Marvel Comics universe, things happened that didn't happen in Norse mythology. Yet Marvel's comic book history has become so intertwined with Norse mythology as we know it.
Qué curioso, no sabía yo eso.
Can't tell fact from fiction. So here's what we're dealing with. We have 3 characters, all of which with 2 sets of history to them, one being Norse mythology and the other being Marvel's interpretation of that. And when you start to ask yourself questions on what's the best way to take money out of a bear's pockets, you probably just shouldn't to begin with. They're all going in the It's a Draw tier. This is giving me a big enough headache. I'm going for a nap. Wow, what a great nap.
Venga, ya, de vuelta.
2 more cheeky chaps I know belong in the big win tier. Blade finds his way up here as his daughter, Brielle Brooks, is actually the one who posted the missing article we found.
Se confirma que tiene una hija en Marvel Rivals. Ok.
Never tell me I haven't done my research. In the comics, he's always been married to a blind woman called Alyssa, and whilst she isn't specifically referenced in game, she features in the 4th installment in the Marvel Rivals Unlimited comic series. Yes, this counts. No, we're not going to think about the biology. Who's that bebé? So this bebé is actually Angela's sister and has no relation to Iron Fist whatsoever, really. And she was like kidnapped from hell or so.
Es verdad, no sabíamos que era ese bebé.
Searchy doodles later, and I think it's quite funny to say that Iron Fist is exactly like his mains. Now, I've put off covering Spider-Man for a while because it's never simple with this bastard. We're going to break our criteria slightly with Spider-Man, as I'm going to put him in the big win tier, and I'm going to ask you to hear me out.
Vale, ¿por qué va a colocar a Spider-Man en el big win? ¿Por qué?
Or leave, I guess. So this Spider-Man is indeed going out with MJ. That's all good and everything. However, from what I've understood, it's implied that these two live together in their home dimension. And sharing a room with your girlfriend is...
Soy imbécil, tío. Soy estúpido. Joder.
It's basically the same thing as a marriage, except it's not soul-crushing. Going with this for our answer saves me from having to go through all of the Spider-Man comics, as if I did, we'd probably be here until Christmas.
No, pero ahora os digo por qué. Pero Spider-Man no tiene hijos como tal, ¿verdad? La cuestión es que creo que la única forma, entre comillas, de confirmarlo dentro del juego es cuando se hace alusión a hijos. Sí tiene, obviamente tiene, obviamente en el multiverso XJ3745, tío, sí, vale, es verdad, perdón. En el juego no creo que sea, por lo menos no recuerdo que se haga mención a ninguno de sus hijos. Pero bueno, que sí, que puede ser, ¿eh? A ver, ¿qué ha dicho?
Speaking of, actually, if it is Christmas when you're watching this now, Merry Christmas. And if the Grinch breaks in whilst you're watching, just kill him.
¿Y esto?
Okay, so from what I understand, both Hulk and Banner have a long history of children in the comics. So we're going to get them out of the way quickly, because they've got to go answer the door.
Okay.
Lads, I have something quite surprising to share with you. I don't think Bucky's tapped. I found many different comic books and story threads where he adopts children or takes on troubled kids as his own, but I don't think he has any biological kids in any timeline. Bucky, I'm so disappointed in you. I thought you were cool. Good chance I must have missed something here. Be sure to correct me down below.
Es verdad. Bucky no tiene referencias de haber tenido relaciones amorosas. ¡Qué fuerte! No lo dirías jamás.
I have, but otherwise, yeah. I think I'm gonna need another nap after this. Yeah, I woke up early. For a penultimate special, 2 of our remaining characters both have children in the comics and have had various other instances of getting down to do things. Doctor Strange has a daughter called Sophia in the Earth 616 timeline, and then Star-Lord has a son called Rocket, named after Rocket, with a nice lady called Aradia. So, both the upseas that goes
no sabía yo eso lo de Star-Lord. Ostras, se la ha dejado para el final la Luna Snow,
Counts on throughout this entire video. You should never put it past me to take a joke as far as I can. Here's the list of things I will... So, Luna. What's the game? Well, it's probably a mobile game, as Luna Snow is the youngest member on our roster, having only been created in 2013 for a mobile game, but she would be popular enough to go on to feature in the comics. And oh look, there's her getting off with a green alien, who looks suspiciously like Beast Boy actually. There's also a couple accounts of her flirting with other characters in game, but since that's not really concrete enough, I think I'm fine putting her in the yes, but not in Rivals tier.
¡Con uno verde! Vale, así quedaría.
Wow.
Vale, buena tier, en verdad. Buena tier. A ver, Lógico, ¿no? Me ha sorprendido bastante el tema de... Sí, los que hay aquí. Los de Wanda, tal, ¿sabes? Todos estos. Me ha sorprendido por el tema de que tiene hijo, pero no biológicamente, sino por magia. Muy bien, muy bien. Pedazo de vídeo, gente. Pedazo de vídeo, Ah, vale, bueno, pues respondiendo a la pregunta, ¿vale? ¿Qué personajes de Marvel Rivals son vírgenes? Scarlet Witch, Squirrel Girl, Adam Warlock, Psylocke, Iron Fist y Bucky. Que se sepa, ¿vale? O sea, que se sepa que no se sepa lo contrario. Quiero decir, interesante. No lo habría dicho jamás, ¿eh? Si hubiera tenido que decir un top 5, no habrían sido estos. Y desde luego Squirrel Girl siempre la habría querido tener aquí. En plan, por mi sanidad mental. Bueno, muy interesante, muy interesante. Hemos aprendido mucho hoy, ¿eh, gente?